Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, here to talk about the Super Bowl, which is taking place tomorrow between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Green Bay Packers. Let's talk about gambling strategies. And let me just say, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider these videos to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now, my prior football videos are up on YouTube. They can also be found at predictfootball.blogspot.com. Occasionally, I'll post one on gamblersadvisory.com. Also, on gamblersadvisory.com, I will post posts from a handicapper. I don't know the guy. I'm just pubbing him based on my admiration of his work, and that is a gentleman named Indian Cowboy, and he's on DocSports.com. I'm not affiliated with Doc Sports. I'm only scouring the internet looking for handicappers who I think have an edge on the casinos. You'll see some Indian Cowboy videos that I've posted on GamblersAdvisory.com. Now, as those of you following my videos know, I'm not surprised that Green Bay is facing Pittsburgh in the Super Bowl. Now, let's talk about how to bet it. I think the Rosetta Stone for this game is the December 2009 matchup between these two teams. Keep in mind, at that time, Green Bay was struggling to make the playoffs. If you recall, Green Bay would ultimately get in as a 6 seed, right? And the Pittsburgh Steelers were also struggling to make the playoffs. They didn't make it. The point is, it was a must-win game late in the season, and both of these teams brought their best games. Now, in that game, Ben Roethlisberger threw for over 500 yards. I'm not kidding. I believe it's his career high. And, of course, Aaron Rodgers threw for over 380 yards. The zone blitz schemes, and keep in mind, Dom Capers was already in Green Bay, and his defense was completely unable to slow down Roethlisberger. If you look at the box score of the game, you will see that both teams only only got 3 rushing first downs each. It was predominantly a passing game. And if you look at the ball distribution, you will see that Ben Roethlisberger hit Heath Miller and Hines Ward. They were the 2 leading receivers for the Pittsburgh Steelers. In other words, the Woodson, Nick Collins secondary of Green Bay, and it's improved a little bit since then, actually shut down Santonio Holmes and the other guy, Mike Wallace, who played in the game. They actually were shut down relatively compared to Heath Miller and Hines Ward, especially when you factor in the number of catches. Santonio Holmes did have more than 70 receiving yards. He didn't get to 100. He certainly wasn't dominant like he was when Pittsburgh beat Arizona in the Super Bowl a couple years ago, right? I believe the secret to this game is that the defenses won't be able to keep pace with the offenses because both of these quarterbacks are exceptional quarterbacks. Both teams use a zone blitz scheme. The problem with a zone blitz is if a defender is blitzing, he's not back in coverage. If you have multiple receiver sets, if you have a quarterback who can read the blitz, and both of these guys are among the best in the NFL at reading blitzes, if you have a quarterback who can read the blitz, buy time by either hanging tough in the pocket, stiff-arming defenders like Ben Roethlisberger does, or moving along the pocket like Aaron Rodgers does, then these quarterbacks will find a way to exploit both of these defenses, right? These defenses are predominantly geared to stop the run, particularly the Steelers, not as good against the pass. Just look at the passing yards that these teams have given up, right? I will concede Green Bay probably has the best secondary in the National Football League, right? Nick Collins and Charles Woodson are going to the Pro Bowl. The other two, guys in that defensive backfield are probably having even better playoffs than Collins and Charles Woodson. But that said, it's clear that Dom Capers' defensive scheme leaves a hole in the middle that a tight end can exploit, and look at what tight ends have done against Green Bay all year, and that a good, shrewd, veteran possession receiver like Hines Ward can exploit. So I don't expect either defense to be able to stop the other. The play I like in this Super Bowl is the over, but not the general over. You want a self-hedging bet, right? The over-under on this is 45 points. You want a self-hedging bet. Let's turn it into a self-hedging bet. If I have $30 and I'm going to throw it on the over 45 instead, why don't I break that in two, right? Why don't I take, and keep in mind, this is a Super Bowl. You have a myriad of prop bets. Why don't I put 15 on the individual over for Green Bay, right? That's depending on your casino, either 23 or 24 points, right? Let me pick the over for Green Bay. Then let me take the other 15 and take the over for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And again, depending on your casino, that's 21 or 22 points, right? Understand that bet would be self-hedging because as long as one of those teams gets the over, then all I'm out is the VIG if the other team doesn't get the over, right? If I'm right and both teams get the over, then you win the bet. It's a windfall, right? Of course, if neither team gets the over, then you would lose just like you would lose if you picked the cumulative 45 over and the teams didn't get to 45. So my recommended play here is to take the over for the individual teams because I think this is going to be a very high scoring Super Bowl. So I like the over 23-24 for Green Bay, and I like the over 21-22 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? And keep in mind, too, the beauty of the individual overs is as long as one team gets the over, then your loss is minimized, right? If it is the kind of scoring bonanza that I anticipate, then you'll win handsomely. It's only if it's a low scoring Super Bowl that you're in trouble, that you'll lose it all. Let me go further. Both of these teams just played in awful weather, right? It was cold. You saw the breath of the players when Pittsburgh played the New York Jets in Pittsburgh. It was cold. You saw the breath of the players when the Green Bay Packers played the Chicago Bears in Chicago, right? But just think back a little bit. Keep in mind, Dallas, they're going to close the roof in Dallas. So once they close the roof in Dallas and once they're playing indoors, you might have the kind of offensive explosion that we saw when Green Bay played Atlanta the week before they played the Chicago Bears, right? You remember when Green Bay played Atlanta, that was an offensive juggernaut because there was no wind to blow the ball one way or the other. The wide receivers didn't have frozen fingers. They could literally hold onto the ball, right? That's what's going to happen here. Don't look at the trend line on the team's offensive output. What you should do is consider the fact that both of these teams are going to be playing indoors. In other words, the cold weather that discourages passing in, the Northeast and Green Bay in December won't be evident here in this Super Bowl. And so what I think is going to happen is I don't think either team's going to be able to run the football because these are two elite rushing defenses, right? So I think they're going to start passing the ball around. Here's a secret with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Their secondary is not that good. Troy Polamalu, safety, just won Defensive Player of the Year. But how come we never hear about the Steelers' corners? And of course, Green Bay has probably more quality receivers than most teams in the National Football League. Also, Greg Jennings, take a look at his numbers. We're talking about well more than 1,000 yards receiving. We're talking about double-digit touchdowns. This guy is an elite receiver. Dare I say it? There probably aren't three receivers better than Greg Jennings in the entire league. Also, let's talk for a moment about Aaron Rodgers. If you really want to know the real deal on Aaron Rodgers, what I suggest you do is go back and look at a college film of USC when USC had their very long win streak. You remember the Trojans ruled college for an extended period of time. They had several guys who were, future NFLers, right? They were a great team. They were really a college empire. Then they played Cal Berkeley. And ask yourself, who are the studs from Cal Berkeley? Um, Granted, you have a few. Deshaun Jackson's a Berkeleyite. But all I'm saying is this. It was basically Aaron Rodgers against Pete Carroll's team. And all I'm saying is if you look at a film of that game when Aaron Rodgers didn't have the weapons he has now in the pros, it might astonish people that it was unknown Aaron Rodgers who actually brought down the Trojan Empire. He's the one who actually stopped USC's winning streak, right? And so this guy is an alchemist. He can literally create things when he doesn't even have superstar teammates, right? He didn't have guys like Reggie Bush on his team, right? And he was able to somehow beat the Trojans. All I'm saying to you is I've watched Aaron Rodgers' career from when he was in college. Berkeley happens to be the rival of my alma mater. And all I can say is I knew when the kid was in college that he was dynamite. He is the best quarterback in the NFC. The only quarterback that I would put ahead of him, quite frankly, if the game were on the line in all of football, is the guy wearing the quarterback jersey in New England, Tom Brady. All I could say with Brady is after winning 3 touchdowns, let's remember, when they were playing the Giants and Brady was going for perfection, understand that when Tom Brady left the field, the New England Patriots had the lead. The only reason Tom Brady does not have a 4th ring is because his defense let him down. So, you know where I stand on the over-under. The other bet that kind of intrigues me, and it's a prop bet, and I only have a minute and a half, is of all the prop bets, understand that last year's Super Bowl was the most watched television program in history, right? History. It actually had more viewers than MASH did. And, of course, last year's Super Bowl had a Nielsen rating of 45. Believe it or not, the casinos have a prop on whether this Super Bowl, which I have no doubt is going to be very popular, but whether this Super Bowl gets a greater than 46 Nielsen rating. My point to you, and it's actually pretty good odds, my point to you is bet against record-setting performances, right? If last year was the most watched program and it only got a 45, you would literally have to have an unprecedented level of viewership to get the over on that prop. So I like the under 46 Nielsen rating. I actually think that's a better prop than all of these other props, including how long it's going to take Christina Aguilera to sing the national anthem. I like the under 46 Nielsen rating as my prop play on the Super Bowl. I'm not going to call a winner here, but let me just say I'm expecting great football from 2 great teams. Congratulations to Green Bay. Congratulations to Pittsburgh for making the Super Bowl. Enjoy the game, and I hope you check back with us at predictfootball.blogspot.com. Thanks for watching.